You see, something's going to happen.
What? What's going to happen?
Something wonderful.
What?
I understand how you feel. You see, it's all very clear to me now.
Welcome to the Occult Rejects. In this episode, I got geez, I'm stuttering all over myself. Sorry, my StreamYard doesn't seem to be working right, so it screwed me up. I got the Occult Rejects man scientist Liza with me. I got JJ Vance, my favorite garbage can dude. You already know who he is. And tonight's guest, very, very special guest. You know, kind of like an OG, and I'm actually like really surprised to have him on my show. So we got Clyde Lewis, and you know, like I had said last week when Headless brought a topic to the table, this week's episode has been brought to you by Liza. She was the one who gave me the balls to reach out to him, and you know, even helped me type something up because I'm not that poetic. So you know, I really want to appreciate her, you know, helping me get Clyde on. And it's also a huge you know, she's been listening to him since like 2012, or I think you said, or maybe earlier. So this is, you know, this is big. It's just like when I had Billy Ray Valentine on my show, it was like, what the fuck? I used to listen to you and now you're on my show. So it's like the same thing for her. So we're going to let Liza kind of like, you know, introduce him and everything. So I'll hand it over to you, Liza.
Thank you. So yes, I'm going to fangirl a little bit, but so it's a classic picture of 2012. It's, you know, summer. I'm sitting in my vehicle, not wanting to go upstairs to my apartment yet, and I'm scanning through the radio, and I stumble upon Clyde's show, and he's talking about something to do with esotericism and looking within, and I was like, oh my God, who is this? You know, and I had never heard anything like this before. I had for sure looked into, you know, paranormal, and aliens and everything conspiracy back then, but I'd never heard anybody speak like this before. And since then I started listening, and at the time I was living in Austin, and I think they only did like an hour show. And I believe you go for like 4 hours, right, Clyde? Like you do a really long show. And so I know when it cut off, I was like, wait, you know, like it cut off. So I run upstairs, look it up, and I log into a Portland radio, and I was telling Clyde off air, I was like, I knew more about Portland traffic and Portland weather than I did about Austin because I was listening to Clyde every night. But one of the things that I really liked about listening to Clyde, one is that it felt like story time at night for me. And it was the first time that I ever heard somebody speak about parapolitics for me. You may call me a sheltered person, but that was genuinely parapolitics I had never heard of before. And I'd never heard of somebody speak about politics in such a way that they didn't take sides, that they actually looked at it, observed it, and in some ways it taught discernment. And I was like, okay, I see where he's going with this. I see that. And so when I would see the news or when a new candidate would come on or what have you, it was at that moment that I was like, okay, I can start to see this differently. And it was never that you were trying to tell people how to think. It was telling people to think. And that was one of the things that I gravitated towards your show. And as well as the people that would call in and the community that kind of started to form around it, it was amazing. And so Nick and I have been discussing a lot of things that could go in through. We're looking at old historical occultism. We're looking at grimoires. We're seeing how alphanumerical language kind of evolved. And it got me thinking about conspiracy theories and how conspiracy theories in and of themselves or conspiracies against groups have evolved over time. And like I mentioned earlier, you have an axiom, I think it's called, that you always say, and it was history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. And so it made me think that when we were looking at some of the Middle Ages occultists, you know, you kind of have to look at what was happening in the background culturally, societally, and whatever. And you hear about the Templars, you hear about King Philip IV, and you start to hear about that whole conspiracy. You're like, wait a minute, this sounds so familiar. This is what's happening now. And so that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to kind of bring you on to kind of pick your brain about and talk about, you know, with conspiracy theories and I guess also because you are the OG, what has it been like to see how conspiracy has evolved over the past few decades. Well, not decades, but yeah, well, since the mid 90s or so.
Well, I think it's evolved to the point where I've always felt that conspiracy theories were probably an extending arm of critical thinking. That, you know, you don't take something at face value, that you kind of say to yourself, is that really what I'm seeing? Is that really what I'm feeling? It's the same thing with science. I mean, scientists do the same thing. They say, well, okay, I see this, it's happening, but can I repeat it? Can I do a repetitive test against it or for it? And if I can, then I've got something I got to move forward with. And like many people, they go down the rabbit hole and they learn more and more and more and more. The difference between conspiracy theory, conspiracies, and what's going on now is the conspiracy theories have gone from being critical thinking, objects of critical thinking, to objects of subordination or insubordination. It's like, how dare you criticize a government? How dare you criticize the church? How dare you criticize those who are supposed to be protecting us? Well, I do, because I don't necessarily believe they have my best interests at heart. And it's not always for the greater good. There are things that happen that you need to think ahead. That's a lot of thing about conspiracy theory, is their theory. They're not necessarily fact. And believing a conspiracy theory is believing a conspiracy theory based on the circumstantial evidence that proves, or at least shows intent for that conspiracy theory. So that's why I always say a good argument can stand up to criticism, and a person who can listen to that and not get angry or offended, they're a good person to have with you, because they're the ones that you're going to have a better conversation with. And they're not going to be too critical of it. And same with when it gets into politics, like you were saying, parapolitics. Parapolitics is actually the study of ponerism in politics. It's the idea that, you know, politicians are poneristic sadists, and they have been for a long time, because they're not going to be looking out for you. I mean, one of the things that was interesting, as I saw pointed out during the Democratic convention, is that, you know, Kamala Harris is up there waving her hands and saying things about the elite and how they were going to go after the elite, and how they were going to raise the middle class and everything else like that. In the meantime, you look up into the rafters, and who's sitting up there in those box seats? The people that paid like millions of dollars just to hear that speech. And you're telling me that she's going to basically give the middle finger to them? Of course not. And that's where the conspiracy lies. I mean, I don't get bothered by people who disagree with me. What I get bothered with are people that take me out of context and say, well, he believes this. I don't necessarily believe it. I entertain it, because maybe I'll find the truth eventually. And that's why, you know, back in the day when it was always the truth is out there, or you'd hear people, other talk show hosts, they were saying, well, I have the truth. I have the truth. I stopped saying that, because there were times when I talk about a conspiracy theory, and then I have to go back and say, well, there's nothing about this conspiracy theory that adds up for me. So if I tell you that I'm telling you the truth, then I'm lying to you. So what I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to give you my honest take as to what I see. Now, I could be wrong. And I always tell people when I'm giving my opinion, I don't say, like the other night, I was talking about the new Jesus picture that's going around that they made with the AI. And I said, this is my opinion. It's an uncanny valley picture, makes me feel uncomfortable. And the reason why is because I have doublethink with this, and it's making me feel weird. And on the other hand, there were a lot of people that didn't even know it was AI that were telling me, oh, you must have a guilty conscience if you don't like this picture of Jesus, right, or something's wrong with you. No, nothing is wrong with me. I just thought, you know, if something gives me doublethink, I tend to get bugged by it. And so that's the thing, is that people now take offense depending on the conspiracy theory and who's involved. And they don't want to believe that the person that's involved can be, involved with any wrongdoing. It's almost like, yeah, those people who are smiling a lot, you wouldn't even think of seeing them in a post office on a wanted poster, but they're just as bad as those people on a wanted poster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's one of those things to where, you know, the not only discernment, but to learn to have agency over yourself, and that someone cannot dictate for you how you interpret things, because you usually interpret things based on your own experience and how you grow up and all that other stuff. But at the same time, people are searching for the savior, to be told what what to think. And I would say that that has now infiltrated what you would call the truth or conspiracy theory podcasters, in that they're looking to these podcasters. Tell me what you think. Tell me how to think this, how to perceive this.
Tell me what to think, because I don't know any better.
I have this problem, and I think one of the reasons why I always talk about, I don't consider myself a conspiracy theorist. I don't. I consider myself a person who observes conspiracy theory, analyzes conspiracy theory, and hopefully come up with an idea. But the reason why I think I'm in this field to begin with is because I always feel like I'm missing something. I don't want to miss something. I don't want to overlook something. It reminded me, I was in, when I lived in South America, and I was with, I didn't have access to the news. And I was with this group. They were from Yugoslavia, and I was talking with them, and I was telling them about the Russians and the leadership and everything. And the one guy, his name was Marvin, was his name of all names. And he said to me, he says, "Well, didn't you know that the Russian leader died?" And I said, "No, I didn't hear about this." And apparently, I don't know who it was, one of the Andropov or somebody dropped off, died. And I was like really shocked, and I felt betrayed, or I don't know what I was feeling. I was feeling like, my God, man, I need to be up on this. I need to know. So ever since that time, I've said to myself, I try not to overlook things. And I try to explain some of these things to people as best I can so that I can figure them out too. And there's some things I wait for. Like if I'm not number one with it, if I'm not the first opinion on this, I'll be the best opinion on this, is the way I see it. And so that's why sometimes I wait on certain stories, because I want to wait and give you a better outlook of it and a more, I think, educated view of what this conspiracy might be or what the conspiracy is.
What do you think about the emergence of everyone now being a conspiracy theorist, in that you start to see, it seems like conspiracy theory has bounced between political ideologies, in that first it seemed like it was the Kennedy assassination, right? You had the people that questioned that it was them. And then you started to see how you had to have left-leaning people that started with conspiracies, believing in that there was a conspiracy against the American people. And then all of a sudden you had this emergence of conspiracy thinking within the right-leaning. And then now you're having it back with, it almost seems like a ping pong.
Well, the left, it has always been the left that came up with conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories were usually left-wing conspiracy theories. And I think a lot of people forget that. So now they're saying the right comes up with conspiracies, and that's not true. Conspiracy theory has been a very long tradition of critical thinking. And what they call conspiracy theory sometimes, some of the more outrageous things they say is conspiracy theory, I tend to believe is apple pie propaganda. And what I mean by that is that when they decided to lift the idea of pushing propaganda onto the American people, that they now push what is called apple pie propaganda, where it comes from intelligences within the country. So somebody that's part of the intelligence cabal, of the deep state, sends a rumor flying, and they get somebody to believe it, and then they draw their attention to that conspiracy theory to make it sense. The biggest one of all right now is Project 2025. And one of the things that I've been having such a problem with that, because I have people thinking that I'm hiding something by not talking about it. I'm going to talk about it, but the reason why I don't want to talk about it is because it's stupid. And I don't like talking about stupid conspiracy theories.
I'll be totally honest with you, Clyde.
Smart ones. But this is obvious. What's that?
We've been doing the same thing. We've had work on actually that topic for like over a month now. We still haven't.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I mean, okay, guys, I'm giving you an exclusive here. Okay.
Here's wow, go.
The whole idea of this was written by a bunch of fanatical Republicans. Okay. Mm-hmm. It was written by the Heritage Foundation, which is a group of people that are already radical.
We go Nazis, basically.
Yeah, pretty much, yes. And then you have a guy named Mark Elias, okay? And he runs a company called Democracy Forward. Now, does anybody remember what Democracy Forward was about? It was about the Steele dossier. It was about Russian collusion. It was about, and I'm thinking, oh, so this guy has all this money to say, hey, look over here, guys. And in the meantime, it's a big distraction. Everybody's talking about it. Trump distancing himself from it. Now going, sure, he has. Why? Because it makes him look bad. Why would anybody support anything that makes them look bad and look like a huge neo-Nazi? I mean, that's the thing. They want to be able to say, this is the thing. This is the thing to be afraid of. No, it's not. It's not even going to be enacted. I mean, there's Congress, there's the Supreme Court, there's all these people that have blocked this because it's just insanity. No one, and I mean, it's like, my God, it's like The Handmaid's Tale on steroids.
Yo, that's what I said. Yo, it's just like that.
Fall for that nonsense. What's that?
It's just like that. If you were to look at how they, which I'm sure you knew, because you're talking about it now. If you look at their plan, it is literally almost how Handmaid's Tale was done. They basically got a whole bunch of their friends inside the government. Everybody overthrew everything. Yeah. And that's exactly what 2025 is about.
I would have a concern that Ted Cruz is behind this too, and that he was involved. I would have a concern that, we have a number of neocons that have always written their manifestos, and sometimes they've tried to carry them out. I mean, you look at the Project for the New American Century, which was written prior to 9/11, and they were saying, well, we want to have an 8-year war or a 10-year war with the Middle East, but no American is going to want to beef up our securities for this unless we have a new Pearl Harbor. Lo and behold, a year later, we have our new Pearl Harbor. It's called 9/11. And so stuff like this is dangerous in that respect, that, you may not know how serious it is until it's carried out. But when you have the same players exposing this fear-mongering stuff, you have to say, well, look at the source. Who was it that brought it to the attention of the Democrats anyway? It was Mark Elias, the same guy that was involved with Steele dossier, Russia, and a lot of the other nonsense that a lot of the left believe in. Yeah. And so
he's a big Clinton operative, is he not?
I'm so pissed off that I have to talk about this because, again, I have to point out the stupidity of all of these organized conspiracy theories from the left wing, not from the right wing, but from the left wing. That's there. You got your exclusive. I'm done. Have a good day, guys. I'm just kidding. I'm having fun. But still, think about that for a moment. That's how it is.
I find you mentioned the Heritage Foundation, and not too long ago, I find this weird. I found this really weird, actually, and I never really thought about, what happened when they made that decision. But, the Heritage Foundation tweeted out that after Trump was found, not guilty and, he couldn't get in trouble and he had immunity, they actually said that just helped, speed warp them farther to what their agenda is, because now they're saying now the president doesn't have to second guess his actions.
Well, see, this is the thing. We have all these NGOs.
Handmaid's Tale coming, man.
This is like Soros in reverse. I mean, Soros comes up with all these cockamamie stupid ideas. We focus our attention on all the morons in the country. I mean, it's true. If a moron says this, the cameras are on him. Hey, tell us more, moron. It's like if you jump to sharks. It's like, it's not a conspiracy theory. You know what it is? It's lunacy. Okay, there's a fine line between conspiracy theory and lunacy, and most of the time the lunacy has no basis in fact, and it's like, for example, QAnon is one of my. That's another one. QAnon is another thing that I've gone after and said, listen, I've had people come up to me at cons, conventions, and they said to me, so are you preparing for the return of JFK Jr.? I go, what? What are you talking about? And they say, well, we're going to go to Dealey Plaza. We're going to wait for the return and the resurrection of JFK Jr., and he's going to vote for Trump. He's going to support Trump. Well, yeah, you had a Kennedy supporting Trump, but it wasn't JFK Jr. And so it's like these people actually believe that he's going to resurrect from the grave and say to everybody, you all need to come to the Trump group. Yeah. That's so culty and so weird. It's not, it doesn't even add up to conspiracy theory. It's stupidity. It's insanity. And that's the thing, is they mistake lunacy and stupidity and insanity, crazy stuff, for conspiracy theories. Those crazy conspiracy theories. They don't even know what a conspiracy theory is. It's where people plot, a group of people plot to bring down an institution or to bring down somebody. It isn't some guy going, well, I think that there are blue chickens that live in Antarctica, and they're going to come and they're going to rob us of our sperm and ovum. And no, that's lunacy. Sure, it sells a few seats at an alien con, but it's stupid. Okay. And I'm not going to address the stupid. I'm going to try and find you the most intelligent stuff, hopefully, that you can listen to and get an, I mean, I'm sorry. I guess you want to see my blood pressure go up. And
listen, I did a whole 7-part series like 3 years ago on QAnon being a psyop, so I totally agree with you. You know,
yeah, it's a self-organized computer program. It's like it tells people what they want to hear, and that's the whole point. Is that people add into it, it comes back and it says, "Oh yeah, that's true. You know, Trump is God. You know, sacrifice your children to the great God." It's insane, and yeah, there's some parts that would probably, if you were to examine them on a case-by-case basis, perhaps you'd find some truth to it. But most of the time, it's like I said, it's chum for sharks. They will swallow that stuff up, and immediately I have to do some explaining, or I have to like dumb down, and I don't like dumbing down, but sometimes it has to be done. Yeah. And because conspiracy theory, the way it's labeled by the media, is so prevalent now, that and it's ubiquitous, that you have to go in and explain, well, I don't know who's come up with this stuff. I've never heard of this person. I've never heard of these people, but yet you're following them out. I mean, and I'm pretty savvy as to who's out there that's doing good work and doing bad work. And even these guys I've never even heard of that come out of the woodwork saying, well, I believe that Michelle Obama's a guy. I don't know. It's interesting, right? It's an interesting theory. But I don't even know who these people are that start these theories. And most of them are started because they want to be cruel. They want to be indecent. Again, Ponerism within conspiracy theories. I mean, most conspiracy theories are based on a lot of truth, based on critical thinking. I mean, science does it, FBI does it, CIA does it. They all have hunches. They all have speculative ideas, and they all try to put together a theory so they can solve a case. And that's exactly what conspiracy theory is supposed to be.
Yeah. You know, something I did want to ask, and because I figured like you'd really be the great person to ask. Through the history of watching conspiracy theories grow and, you know, change and evolve, have you noticed people's behaviors change? Like, in my opinion, since I got into the conspiracy community, I just feel like the last, 6 to 8 years, people's personalities have gotten like very extreme and very hard with them. Like, I felt like back in the day, it wasn't like, oh, if you don't believe that, you must be fucked up, or you must be Illuminati, or, you know, you're part controlled op. You know, like, and you could just be some random dude with a little Instagram page and you're getting shit on because you don't think Trump is the second coming of Christ. Like, was it that, like, were people that radical about conspiracy theories all the time? Oh, they have been?
I don't know where that comes from.
I thought it might have been new.
Well, here's the thing is that I'd hate to blame it on Alex Jones because it's like, it just seems like everything can be blamed on Alex Jones. I just think
I'm sure he's a huge part of the problem too.
I think the blame can be placed on the fact that most people aren't educated enough to even figure out the logistics of a good conspiracy theory. You know, back in the day, there were a lot of great conspiracy theorists like Jim Keith and you know, William Cooper, and they're all gone. And I was raised on those guys. I was in the barbershop with my dad listening to these types of conspiracy theories, not this nonsense of that everything's a conspiracy theory and that we have to have fact checkers and Snopes and everybody. It's like, guys, you know, we know what conspiracy theories are. At least the smart people do. In fact, smart people, I think, are more likely to talk about conspiracy theories than the dumb people. The dumb people will believe the conspiracy theories. The smart people will discuss the conspiracy theories and laugh out loud sometimes at some of the outrageous stuff. It's like one of the things I've done is I did a show one time about Trump being a time traveler. Now, I don't know if he's a time traveler, but there's a lot of cool things that would point to the idea that he might be. But see, that's the thing is that some snide idiot would probably say, well, that Clyde Lewis believes that Donald Trump's a time traveler. I once said to a magazine article, I go, the aliens are not here to save us. They're here to eat us, right? And some guy went off saying, Clyde believes that the aliens are here to eat us and they're among us and they're eating people and there's a demon under his head or something. Yeah, I said that as a joke. I mean, I'm very serious. I mean, I could be kidding, but I'm very serious about what I kid about. I mean, conspiracy theory has a lot of kidding with it as well. You know, it's like the snipe hunt, right? Has anybody been on a snipe hunt? You ever been on a snipe hunt? Well, then I won't give it away.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you've been on a
I was
snipe hunt,
expecting JJ to
right?
say
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Okay. You and I, snipe hunters, unanimous, right? So you go on a snipe hunt and you realize how stupid you are out to the end of the snipe hunt. It's like going on a jackalopes hunt, but jackalopes are fun, right? Jackalopes are really fun. But people like, you don't believe in jackalopes, do you? Oh, I don't know. I think I might. And that just drives them crazy. And that's the fun of the conspiracy theory. It's the trickster's fun. And then sometimes you have to give it away and say, hey, screw you if you can't take a joke.
Exactly.
I don't think that all conspiracy theories are jokes, or I don't think they're all, but, you know, read some Robert Anton Wilson and grow up. That's all I got to say. Robert Anton Wilson was one of my inspirations, one of them anyway, when I got into this. And he was a brilliant Discordianist. And that's what you do, is you use conspiracy theory to shake up the thought processes. You know, it's there to shake up the thought processes. It's there to get people to think outside the box. It's there to fill in the holes that the media will not tell you about. And if you have good evidence to show that what you're talking about is real, don't hold it back, man. If you can separate that all together and put it back together without instructions, you have a great story. And that's what I have found. I mean, it's what all real reporters do. They have a hunch. I remember I got fired one time from a job. I was a newscaster. I worked for an Arizona news company. And my background is CNN. My background is the crime beat. My background is, you know, all these things. And crime is all conspiracy theory 24/7. So one time I was talking about this girl. Apparently, she said she was being held hostage by some guy. And so the police, you know, they basically gathered around her apartment, and they were there for hours. And the girl was saying that she was being held hostage, that she was going to be killed. This guy was with her, was going to be killed and everything. And I said to the news guys, I go, this girl's lying. And he says, how do you know she's lying? I says, because we haven't heard anything from the suspect. When does the suspect talk to the police? Well, they haven't. And so you're going on her word, right? And you haven't seen a guy with a gun. You haven't heard a guy with a gun. And so this girl's lying. She's not being held hostage by anybody. And so sure enough, I reported that. I go, I think this girl is not telling the truth because we haven't seen a suspect. There's been no report of her being held at gunpoint, none of that. She's just saying that she's being held hostage. Well, sure enough, the police came to the door. There was nobody in the house except her. She didn't want to go to work that day. And so I said to the editor, I said, see, I was right. And he says, yeah, and you're fired. He fired me for being right. He said, yeah, you're right. But you know what? It lost your job because you didn't do as I say. You reported something I told you not to report. So that's when I realized that, I get it. You know, you have to basically, you know, suck along until somebody tells you it's okay to, you know, give up the ghost. I don't play that way. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why I chose Ground Zero over mainstream news, is because I thought, you know, I'd rather be free to think about what I write about and talk about and sleep at night rather than have to pretend that I'm doing a story just for the sake of reporting it. And that's something that I've always remembered. There's a number of things I always remembered about how when I worked for CNN as a field reporter for the Pacific, that they wanted me to lie about where I was, my location, whether or not I was there, and whether or not, you know, and I told them I wouldn't report this. And that didn't work well with them. And so I lost that job too. So, you know, I've been in and out of news jobs saying I won't report certain things because I know that they're wrong. They're lying.
Yeah. Good.
One thing I wanted to ask your opinion when it comes to, you know, conspiracy theories. I do think a lot of them, like you had mentioned it before, you know, propaganda, it's you know, done by a 3-letter agency. I had even wondered, like, if sometimes if even the left is feeding half the right's conspiracy theories. But I wonder, like, in my opinion, I'm sure it's probably been going on for a long time. But I think maybe due to, like, social media and technology and how easy it is for people to, like, make memes or do things, do you think it's also, like, occultists or occultism is actually deeply embedded into some of it?
I think with memes, yes. I think memes. I did a whole show on meme magic.
Yeah, I think social
And
media.
basically saying social media and meme magic, that memes are like sigils, and they can be empowered just as much as sigils are empowered, because we all know how sigils are empowered and how they can be used for curses and what have you. And yeah, that's why some memes take off and others don't, is because I think there are some people that actually empower their memes with magic, and they're more effective that way. I don't think people even explore that idea, but I've explored it because I always wonder, how is it this meme catching on? I mean, how is it that a group of girls crying, pointing at a cat, becomes a big deal? You know, I don't know if you've seen that meme. Yes. I even have a T-shirt that I wear sometimes of these Chinese women in kabuki pointing at a cat, and it looks like something out of a Chinese, pastel or whatever they call those things. But it's just a meme that for some reason catches on, and I always wonder how that works. And it works because I think people actually, and there are many ways to empower sigils, which I won't go into on the air here with you guys, because some of them include doing strange things to your body parts. But it's that it's that power, empowering these memes and having them work, and some catch on and some don't, because it just strikes you and you go, ooh, and it's a fleeting thought that sticks in your head. It's mind speak. It's psychic in nature. It's part of the psychological operation and the psi power that they use. And it's been done. I mean, we can go all the way back to medieval times with John Dee and Ed Kelly and Aleister Crowley and all those magicians. They would use that kind of thought processes and alphabets and languages in order to do what they call spiritual espionage. Yeah. And so the idea of psionics and psychological warfare is something that they're really good at right now. And so psychological warfare does include conspiracy theory. It does include going after academics and destroying academics, or having academics go after people and show the folly of their conspiracy theory. Or what they do is they take a conspiracy theory and they rebrand it to fit their agenda, like UFOs, for example. Anybody use UAP? I don't like using UAP, but I do. UAP It sucks. Okay, tonight we're going to talk about UAP. I don't know why. It just doesn't feel the same as talking about good old damn UFO. Satanic UFOs. I just don't know why. But yeah, the idea that the Air Force decided to call them UAP. Why? Because that way they couch the narrative in a direction they want it to go. It's not unidentified flying objects, because people think that little gray men are flying them. It's unidentified anomalous phenomena. That means it could be anything from birds to who knows, but they can throw a label on it like that. Or it's like chemtrails as opposed to stratospheric aerosol injections, which is, you tell somebody, well, look at the chemtrails. There's no such thing as chemtrails. Go on the internet, chemtrails. No such thing as chemtrails. Then ask about, stratospheric aerial injections. Oh yeah, the Air Force has got a program that they're working on right now. They're dimming the sun right now. And it's like, it just depends on how they couch the narrative. And that's another thing about conspiracy theory, is that it has to be couched in such a way that it's believable, and there has to be a flaw, though. There has to be at least one flaw in a conspiracy theory to keep people wondering and guessing, and that's the whole point of conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory is so believable up to a point, and then you're like going, there's a flaw in that logic, and we got to find out what that flaw is. Otherwise, this conspiracy theory is just going to remain, kind of floating out there until somebody comes up. It's like the JFK assassination. You look at the JFK assassination, magic bullet theory. Okay. CIA. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The CIA was charged to investigate the very thing that Kennedy wanted to destroy. Isn't that ironic? You look at those people who followed Kennedy in the presidency, all members of the Warren Commission, most of them anyway. And you're thinking, oh, this is a bigger conspiracy than we thought. But see, that's the whole point, is that everything is floating and dangling out there, and it takes a real genius to connect the dots. And sometimes the dots get connected so well that you become kind of a latter-day prophet in a way. And so you got to be careful of that too, because you don't want people to think that you're, some sort of a cult leader ready to, castrate people. I don't know. It's just one of those things that, hi, I'm a member of the cult. that guy. I don't think he does stuff.
Well, I mean, going back to the whole meme magic, the fact that it pretty much took the U.S. by storm. I'm just going to say it, and I think that is what got Trump elected, was the actual injection of this magic into everyone's face via their scrying device, and it delivered it perfectly and beautifully for the object that it needed to be done.
You're right. You were so right that I even did a show about that, saying that it was meme magic that gave us Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a product of the internet. I mean, if you everything that Donald Trump says is everything you read on Facebook. Have you ever noticed that?
Oh,
everything he says is World Wrestling Federation. You ever notice that?
Yes.
And I laugh at it. I sometimes laugh at it because I'm going, people are all shocked by it. I go, you never really watched a wrestling match, have you? You never really have, you never really read the internet, have you? Donald Trump is the internet. Donald Trump is World Wrestling Federation. Donald Trump is he's reality TV. He's all that. Now, is he a president? Well, I guess so. We'll find out on November 5th. But, and then we look at the other package, right? Nobody voted for her. Nobody cared about her. Nobody liked her. Now everybody loves her. Now
everybody. Yeah, she's raised so much money so fast.
Because of apple pie programming. That's how it happened. Apple pie propaganda. They used the propaganda against us. And now they're saying happy, happy, joy, joy. It's the Ren and
Stimpy.
Yeah, it's the Ren and Stimpy show. Everybody's happy, everybody's joyous. But you know what they don't do is they never point out that I remember when January 6th happened. What do they call it? They call it they rioted because of the big lie. It was all about the big lie. And the big lie was something that Goebbels came up with during the time of Hitler.
Yes,
they called it the big lie. And I'm like going, wow, they borrow a Nazi thing. Now we have Kraftwerk Freud. Have you ever heard that? Kraftwerk Freud. It means strength through joy. In 1933, that was the campaign that Hitler had. We're going to bring joy to everyone. And we're going to go after those who do not bring us joy. Look it up. It's called Strength Through Joy. That's what they've used. They used that same Nazi. It was a Nazi campaign, propaganda campaign, and it was called Kraftwerk Freud, which meant strength through joy. And that's what they're doing now. They're saying, "Hey, we're the joy division. We're the happy." And the joy division was basically a Jewish brothel that was for the Germans, but it's like we're the happy people, we're the joyful people. And what does it say below the posters of Kamala? Forward. Who was it that said forward with Stalin? Forward with and it was always the forward was a communist Marxist type of thing. So all these things that they're borrowing from history. Again, history rhymes. We got forward, we got strength through joy. All these things are being used, and you know what? They worked then, and they work now.
And that's what I was going to ask. Do you think they're actually dipping back into history and pulling it forward because it worked?
Yeah. Well, and whether you like it or not, you have a subconscious or an unconscious mind that has absorbed over the years these conspiracies, absorbed over the years these archetypes. That every archetype exists that we identify with. That's why Star Wars was so popular. So we have the bad guys and the good guys, and everybody knows who the bad guys are, and everybody knows who the good guys are. The wording they use, like Darth Vader, Dark Father. I mean, you figure it out that, read Joseph Campbell. He'll set you straight on how mythologies and things affect us. And that's why conspiracy theories exist, because they are also the mythologies that that are built. And they may be real mythologies, they may be urban legends, they may be a number of things, but they teach a lesson. And that's the whole point of conspiracy theory. A conspiracy theory is supposed to teach a lesson. A conspiracy theory is to lead you to other information. A conspiracy theory is critical information, not some made up bullshit stuff. Not something made up that somebody's going to go, hey, let's put a clickbait on this dude. No, it has to be thought out. Every time I hear some crazy conspiracy theory that I think, where'd this come from? I say, what's the intent of this conspiracy theory? Yeah. There's got to be intent behind a conspiracy theory, or it's not a conspiracy theory. It's just nonsense. It's just mental masturbation. It's not even worth it. It's mental hopscotch, and it just bothers me that people follow and they especially the left. They want to point out the ridiculous conspiracy theory, and they only give a half-assed version of it too. They don't go into detail and give context to it. They just say, well, people believe in Jewish lasers. That's not what they believe in. They don't believe in Jewish lasers. They believe that there are direct energy weapons that may be able to be used in order to create fires on the ground. And that some people believe that the Rothschilds are behind it. Oh, so you're saying the Jews are zapping people? No, that's not what they're saying. They said there's an organized group of people, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, who knows, that have the power and the money to use DEWs on people.
But you have a blue roof, you're good. You got a blue roof, you're all right.
What's that?
You got a blue roof, you're all right, though.
Yeah, blue roof, guys. Get a blue roof. Do the program.
But
that's the flaw. See, that's the flaw in your conspiracy theory. Is, you're going, okay, so why is it this blue thing just all of a sudden creeped into the conspiracy theory? That's what makes it a good conspiracy theory. Is you're like, damn it, this blue thing is driving me nuts. And that's what you call Chapel Perilous. It's something. It's the idea that you get to this point. It's called Chapel Perilous, where if you follow through, you end up going insane, or if you stop, you end up going insane. And that's the beauty of conspiracy theory. It's not being told that you're an idiot for believing it. It's that I want to know why a blue umbrella will not burn in Lahaina. And that's the whole point.
I mean, listen, when I like for a second when that meme was going around a while ago, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I started like thinking, is there something with the color blue? And I'm looking at the pictures and all these memes. And I'm like, but there's a red car, and then there's a yellow house. I'm like, I don't know. Like, there was a bunch of blue roofs, but there's a bunch of other things that aren't burnt either that's not blue. And I guess everybody just focused on the blue roofs are okay.
Right.
And didn't notice everything else around it, too.
On a conspiracy theory.
So I was like, well, there's the flaw.
That conspiracy theory is, why is it that everybody focused on the blue? It's like, one of the numbers that is a vexing number for people is the number 23. Why is it people focus on the number 23? They do, though. If I were to tell you, if I talked a whole show about the number 23, there would be people who would say, oh my God, Clyde was talking about the number 23. I saw it pop up everywhere. It's because of vision triplicity. You have a moment where your mind fixes in on something and you can't get it out of your mind. And so it just bugs you the whole time. That's your flaw in the conspiracy theory. The magic bullet. How the hell did they come up with this magic bullet theory? And how the hell did it do what they say it did? I'm never going to figure this out. So the only thing I'm going to say is they're lying. But you got to figure out how people were convinced that a magic bullet went through Kennedy and and then went all over the place until finally it went back and hit Kennedy again. That's the Chapel Perilous of conspiracy theory. That's what makes conspiracy theory.
But isn't that part of that intentional, Clyde? Don't you think some of this forced kind of Chapel Perilous?
Oh, yeah.
The blue roofs, the magic bullet.
It's intentional. Yeah.
Well, another example with the Heritage Foundation, they've been a hot topic with the Project 2025.
Yeah.
But that same group is pushing stuff with the Trump assassination shooter that seems to be disinformation. So it seems to be muddying these kind of waters very much intentionally.
Yeah, I find it interesting that I actually posted a story that was from the Heritage Foundation on my Facebook page. I can't remember. It was about the assassination. And somebody says, how dare you post something about the Heritage Foundation? They're a bunch of kooks. And I go, yeah, it's true. I should think twice about doing that. They're a bunch of kooks. And then everybody's telling me, why aren't you talking about 2025? Because a bunch of kooks came up with it. What am I doing here? So, that's the whole thing. It's that, there is a bunch of academia that needs to be addressed with regard to conspiracy theory and conspiracy history. And it's never addressed by the media. It's always being put down and said, yeah, all this stuff is not nonsense. But, there needs to be someone out there that can piece all this together and be the authority on conspiracy theory. I don't know if I am. I know a lot of people seek me out when we do TV specials. I know you guys sought me out too. I don't know. I think that some of the best ones have gone. We've lost them. They're getting older and they're dying. In fact, I'm getting older. I'm 60 now. And so I'm just wondering who's going to be there to take my place. And so that's the thing is I just hope the story never dies. I hope it continues.
With the whole, when speaking of the Trump assassination and then going back to the Q PSYOP and then going back to mean magic, tying it all back together, you have this the conspiracy with, you know, people, the child trafficking, the pedophilia, the pedastry. You also have the Satan worship, and you also have this bad behavior. That was all key in accusing the Templars. And that was all key during the blood libel of the Jewish pogroms. And so and you start to see a movement in the political culture at that time, like almost like a shift. And it seems a little curious as to, is that what they're trying to do right now with Trump and then with Kamala and so forth? Is that what the play is?
I think you're observing well, and I've done shows before talking about the blood libel of now. The blood libel of now is adrenochrome. The blood libel now is child trafficking, and while it all happens, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that it happens, because that was one of the first things I latched onto when I did my show back in the 90s. Was I did a Don't Buy Thai boycott because of the Pattaya Beach, Thailand brothels where they were abusing little kids. And then I did some investigation, finding out that a lot of these brothels were being organized by the CIA, and they were honey pits, honey traps. And so, yeah, I mean, it's sad, but what is funny is all these people that are indignant about pedophilia, all these people that are indignant about child trafficking and about human trafficking. But the really scary thing that I think if people heard this truth, they wouldn't even bother voting, and that is, a lot of the money that these guys are making, the politicians, are made from drug cartels, Chinese, the Chinese triad, which basically their work is in opiates and child trafficking, child prostitution in Southeast Asia. All these things are what are funding our politicians. Yes. And so they will give you lip service about your kids, but the truth is your kids don't vote. You vote. And so they'll play that the kids need to be saved routine, but most of the time that there's no genuine, it's disingenuous to say that, because they don't do anything for kids, really. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's always nice to say something that you're going to do for the kids, but what really needs to be done is we need to expose the worldwide trafficking of human beings, the fact that they're missing, the fact that they wind up in some German brothel somewhere doing tricks or being forced into prostitution and all this. China, they do the same thing. And that's where the money comes. Yeah. All that money is coming from human flesh, and it's all a flesh parade. And that's the ugly conspiracy. That's the ugliest conspiracy of all, really. It's the idea there's a conspiracy to destroy the fabric of our nation through things like pedophilia and all this. So yes, there is something to it, but it is also being used as a way to demonize people. And I know that there was a time where I was doing some shows they would say, why don't you talk about pedophilia and everything? It's because it was being used as a political weapon against the Democrats. And if you listen to anybody who's like totally right-wing out of their mind, they would say something like, well, so-and-so's a pedophile, so-and-so's a pedophile. Well, if they're all pedophiles, then we're not doing our job, right? And so I just sit there and say, well, I'm not going to talk about the left-wing conspiracy pedophilia rings, because there are also many right-wing pedophilia
Oh, it's the
rings.
Franklin scandal.
Yeah, and so they're all being done in areas where there is no accountability, such as the security agencies like the NSA, the CIA, the FBI. They're all aware of this stuff. They have files on all the child porn. They know what they're doing. They know everything that's happening here. So don't sit there and tell me that you can make a list of all these people that were on Jeffrey Epstein's plane and tell me that all these people are pedophiles, or they were in his black book because you had an interest in talking to them. That's not good reporting. Good reporting is to catch them in the act, or at least look back at their record and say, yeah, they do some really kind of sick things. And in the meantime, we're distracted when President Biden is sniffing little girls' necks when he's talking to them. So I just say to myself that a lot of this stuff is being used as distraction, and it's being used, just like you said, as the Templars. It was used against the Templars and worshiping the devil and all this stuff. Satanic Panic was another thing that happened.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
In the 80s and the 70s. That was also a distraction. While it was really happening, while there were people that were really doing satanic types of rituals and stuff, it got out of hand thinking that everybody was doing it. Not everybody is doing it. They're just, everything is based on a small percentage. So when you're saying, well, there's these white supremacists out there, that's 1% of the population. We're making a big deal out of 1% of the population that we should not ignore, but we should at least not give them a spotlight. Same with, transgender and all this other stuff. You got transgender people. My nephew transgendered. Okay, I have a nephew that's transgendered. I don't have a problem with transgender. What I have a problem with is I have a problem with this whole idea of saying, well, there are kids out there that want to change their genders. And so what we're going to give them is we're going to give them pills that's going to take away their sexual feelings, and eventually we're going to mutilate them. You know what that is? That's eugenics.
Yeah, eugenics.
That is eugenics. It is nothing else but eugenics. And I'm not anti-trans by saying so, because what you're doing is you're eliminating a child's ability to procreate. You're eliminating a person who's going to go through puberty and have those sexual feelings, whether they be gay, straight, or otherwise, and they're not going to have that pleasure. Sex is a pleasure that we've been given to make us happy. They're taking that away because they don't want anyone to procreate. And that's exactly what they did in Nazi Germany. That's exactly what they did as the turn of the century when Wellcome Trust and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, Jewish laser people, were actually going after women, what they called imbeciles, the mentally challenged, black people, you name it. They were a burden on society. They were going in and sterilizing them, and that's exactly what they're doing again. And they were so good at this, they got the transgender groups and the gay groups to support it, and I think that's sad. It's very sick. It's a conspiracy. It's a very
for sure.
Conspiracy. Yeah.
I definitely think so. I do think that there is a conspiracy to limit the population without their knowing in other devious and insidious ways. I do agree with that. But I wonder how much of it is desensitizing people to Satanism, desensitizing people to Nazis, desensitizing people to whatever it is, and to the point that you hear it so much, it doesn't even faze you anymore.
I agree with you. Like I said, I mean, if we throw around Nazi like a dirty shirt, and everybody's a Nazi. So if everybody's a Nazi, nobody's a Nazi. If we're saying that everybody's a Nazi, then what do we have to worry about? We're all Nazis, and we might as well just, Sieg Heil and call it a day. That's what I don't like, is that it takes away the impact. Pedophile takes away the impact of pedophile. If everybody's a pedophile, then it takes away the impact. If we're all calling each other names, it takes away the impact of those names. Names and words are there for a reason, and words and names have been hijacked. It's like a woman told me the other day, she finds it really sick and wrong that the Democrats have hijacked the word joy. Her middle name's Joy, and now she said, I can't even think of that without thinking of the Democrats. People who used to use the word gay to mean happy. I can't use the word gay anymore because it's been hijacked. I can't use the word woke anymore because it's been hijacked. I can't use rainbows anymore because it's been hijacked. And this is what's going on. They're hijacking memes and ideas, and that's a conspiracy in and of itself. Language is a conspiracy too. Yes. The idea that we've created languages that will bar people from understanding what we have to say. And it's because we did it to protect ourselves from intruders and invaders. And that's why history repeating itself, that's why we're all afraid of immigrants. We're afraid of immigrants and immigration because they speak a different language and they're a different color than we are. And we don't know what they're plotting because we don't understand what they're saying to one another. Okay. And that's the thing, is that if you want to know what they're saying about us, you got to learn their language. So I'll tell you, 3 languages you have to learn in the future: Spanish, English, and Mandarin Chinese, and you'll have the whole world at your feet. Think about
I'm halfway there. I'm gonna change the conspiracy just real quick because I wanted to hear your take on this. You were the first person I ever heard speak about Project Bluebeam, and you had always said it's not what you think it is. Right. Some people were confusing Project Bluebeam with Project Blue Book, and I remember you clarifying that a lot very quickly. But if you could speak about Project Bluebeam, because a lot of people think it's something, and as a matter of fact, I think on your show last night, you had said it's not what you think it is, and people are thinking one way and it's not.
Well, there's something that happened. This is a conspiracy theory that has gone out of control, and it's because it's been latched on. And I don't want to disparage anyone's belief system, but it got latched upon by a bunch of evangelical Christians. And evangelical Christians that see aliens as a threat, that they are a threat to God and Jesus, and that the alien thought processes and chariots of fire are just thinking about them as in UFO sense, and the UFO terms is demonic. So they created this idea that there's a scripture where they talk about the grand delusion. There'll be a delusion among you, and it'll be, they think that they know what the delusion is, and it'll be the aliens, and that they often quote the secretary of that used to be Secretary Werner von Braun saying that the alien threat was going to be fake. No, she was saying that Carol Rosin had said that at the UFO conference where she's defending aliens. She wouldn't say that the alien threat was fake if she was up there. She's saying the threat would not be real, that aliens are real and aliens would be there. But it's like Werner von Braun said, we create threats with everything. Everything would be a threat that we need to, build the war chest. And that's what she was saying. But people took that as say, yeah, they're going to fake an alien threat with blue beam. And we all know about blue beam, right? Blue beam is where they're supposed to, beam aliens into the sky and make people believe that the aliens are here and that there's a new world order. That was never what it was about. In fact, and I just did a show about it because I was talking about the Jesus thing. The idea has been addressed by not only Sergio Monas, the guy who came up, Sergio Monas, the guy that came up with it, but also Jean Baudrillard, who wrote a book about similarities and simulacrum, saying that, if we have the power to simulate these things, then the biggest cynical thing we could simulate was the second coming of Christ. And that's what he was talking about. He was talking about that we would be simulating a return of a Messiah, not UFOs. And so that's the thing, is that it's a conspiracy theory that somehow evolved into the idea that they would fake a UFO invasion when it's about faking the second coming. It's about whether or not they're capable of creating a false Messiah based on artificial intelligence. That we would get to the point where we would have a singularity so great that we would be able to fake the second coming. And that was always something that I thought was, when I was a kid, I even thought about that. I thought, who's to say that they're not going to be able to create, like I said the other night, when they were doing the Jesus thing, I said, when is it that this Jesus avatar they've created goes from a Jesus avatar to a Disney attraction? And that's what I meant by, in Disney, you get to shake hands with the president, or at a wax museum, you just shake hands with a dead celebrity. What makes you think they're not going to be able to do that with Jesus? Put him in the sky, hoist him up there with all these wonderful things that Sergio Monas said we had, and just fake it. And in fact, he even said in his theory, he said they would find something archaeological that would be able to mimic or at least fake the idea of that everything we learned about Christianity is wrong. So what is the Shroud of Turin right now? It's being used as a way to create this Jesus figure. And so he was exactly right. They're using some archaeological thing to fake a Jesus figure. And then where does it go from there? I mean, where does it go from there? And that's the slippery slope. So it could go towards a blue beam, but it's not about aliens. And there's no such thing. There's no project that the government's working on called Project Blue Beam. There isn't one. And that's what I want to make people understand, is that this is a conspiracy theory that has evolved over time. But the original theory has nothing to do with an alien invasion or an alien simulation. It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
You know something that we had come across when me and Lisa were researching a topic together, and it made me wonder about it. Like back in the day, I think it was maybe during Michael Meyer time. It was, I think, like the 1500s. You had a lot of occultists and alchemists that would almost put out like pamphlets of kind of bigger, it's almost like a sample of a bigger working. And they used to have a blue cover on them. And they used to be called Bibliotech Blue. That's what they called them back in the day. Blue Book. So, I mean, in my opinion, I do think a lot of this alien and blue beam and all, well, all this stuff, I do think there's occultism behind it and mindfuckery. So I had even wondered, could this blue book even be a ripoff of occultism from Bibliothèque Blue?
Oh, sure. I mean, I thought about that too when I first heard of Blue Book, because they immediately changed it from Grudge to, there was another one too that they were calling it, and then they just immediately changed it to Blue Book. And I was thinking, Blue Book meaning what? Is it forbidden knowledge, Blue Book, like you were saying? Is it Bibliothèque Blue, or is it porn blue? Or, I mean, that's the thing. Let's say a blue subject is a subject that's taboo, or pornography or something, or witchcraft or occult. That's always the blue occult thing that they always point to, and the idea that there's some sort of synarchy or something that is blue. And look at what they do to politics. We've got red and we've got blue. We got the blue pill and the red pill. I mean, it's been handed down for generations, and this is how conspiracy theories and ideas happen. It's like I remember back in the day. I don't know. It was a story I remember about a kid who was playing on a carpet, and he all of a sudden said, "The carpet's lava. Everything outside my footsteps is lava, and if I step off this path, I'll burn in the lava." And everybody was saying, "Okay, well, we won't walk around the lava. We'll let you do what you're doing." And by the end of the day, he's convinced himself that the floor is lava, and he falls off the path, and he freaks out because he thinks he's going to burn to death. Well, see, that's the thing, is that the game begins, people respect the game, and then some people forget to stop playing. And that's what we're in the middle of right now, is that people decide that they want to role play. And so we have live action role players out there who pretend to be one thing when there's something totally different. Oh, yeah. So they pretend to be a dog or a cat, or they pretend to be a guy or a girl, or it's because they're not satisfied with what they are. They're not satisfied with the world. So they want to make the world one big metaverse. And that's why we have metaverse. That's why we have the 8th sphere. That's why we have all these people escaping to fantasy world, because they don't like what they see and they want to put it in their own image. And wouldn't that be what conspiracy theory is too? Yeah. I mean, we all know the lava is fake, but real things get broken. All things get broken. And so we have to understand that, some things aren't exactly the way we want them to be, and we have to deal with it. That's called grown-up stuff. You realize it's time to grow up and understand. I mean, look, I'm still growing up. I'm still having to realize that there are limitations that I have now that I'm getting older. And these are the things that happen to people. And my wife is going through it too. I mean, we're all reaching that point where we're saying that it looks like we can't do these things anymore because we're either too old, or we're too tired, or we're too this or too that. And, you come to realization sometimes that, the world's a broken place, and you have to look out for you and those you love. And you have to also listen to people, and you separate that which doesn't work, and you apply that does work. And that's why conspiracy theories, I think, are very important. I think that's why they're vital, is because they give people, and most of the time they're right too. I don't know if you've noticed that, but conspiracy theories are usually right. They really are.
It takes a while, but that eventually you'll end up seeing that they had some validity to them.
Right.
Something I kind of wanted to ask you, Clyde, and it's going to be kind of like shifting over to a whole other topic. Sorry about that, but it's just like kind of your opinion. I wondered what you might have thought. I know we brought up Nazis a bunch. I think this is just my theory, and I think I'll use. So I might drag this out to get the question across, but I want to use Azov as a example. For the Ukraine war. Maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't. I noticed because I stare at everything because of being an occultist. I fucking analyze the news like crazy if I watch it. A lot of times they would show footage, and it didn't matter if it was Fox, MSNBC, or CNN. I had seen it on all three of them. A lot of the footage would say supplied by Azov. So now a lot of the footage we're even being shown and being told and being based off what's going on in Ukraine is coming from, in my opinion, a Nazi battalion. I don't know.
Azov.
Seems pretty well established. Yeah.
So, and I do think when it comes to Nazism, I do think there's different facets to Nazism, but I think one huge thing that a lot of people I don't think understand is I do think there is deeply embedded occultism in it. Like, in my opinion, I think Nazism is occultism. That's just my opinion, but
well, it is something that you may want to think about is that the Nazis lost the war, but they didn't lose the minds of the people. And the reason why is because they are an occult group.
Yes.
And the reason why there have been many groups that have kind of spun off from them. Anything from Theosophists to you name it. I mean, it's like Vril Society. All these societies were talking about the coming race, the Aryan groups, the Supermen, the Ubermensch. I mean, just go down the list of all these things that have been part of our lives. Even the Olympics. You know, a lot of people think the Olympics are being patterned after the great Greek, you know, Olympics that happened a long time. No, they're patterned after the Nazi pageantry that was actually established in the 1930s.
Yeah. What I wanted to, I'm still trying to get there with the question. So, like, I guess what I wanted to get at is that I still think, like, you summed it up great. Since World War II, you know, they lost the war, but they haven't really lost the people's minds. It's just, in my opinion, I again, because I think Nazism is very much, you know, embedded in occultism, and I think a huge thing with occultism, with black magic specifically, is handing somebody something and making them believe they're looking at something completely different. You mind fuck them by leaving little things out or taking a 2 seconds out of 10, you know, whatever. I think, just my opinion, I think when it comes to the propaganda handed to the people on TV that the normies believe, I'm sorry I use that word, I'm just trying to, you know, and then even the conspiracies. In my opinion, I think it's all a lot of Nazis still. Like, I think they're mind fucking humanity a lot right now.
Well, the Nazis learned something that we all need to understand, and that is everything sounds reasonable in a bubble. Outside the bubble, it's all bullshit. So if you're in that bubble, like you go to the the only thing I can think of is the Democratic Convention. They're all in that happy bubble. They're all talking about the Midwest. They're all talking about the hardworking man. They're all talking about these things. That was good in the bubble. But outside that bubble, there were people starving to death. Outside that bubble, there were protests going on. Outside that bubble, people were unhappy. Outside that bubble, people were throwing maggots at Democrats in their meals when they had breakfast. This is something that was outside the bubble that was not reported. So everything else is reasonable in that bubble. So if you are raised in something like Nazism or at least occultism, and you don't realize that all of those things that were applied in Nazism are the same things that were applied in occultism, then it's because you've been in that bubble long enough not to see beyond it. And so you have to find yourself outside the bubble and look down on all of it, you know, and understand that if you look down on it as a stage, you'll see that everything contributes to everything else. And we all find ourselves again in Chapel Perilous, because we'll say to ourselves, well, wait a minute. If I have these thoughts, does that make me a Nazi? Do I have these thoughts about, I mean, Satanists think the same way I do. Hell, Hitler owned a dog. I own a dog. Does that make me a Nazi? This is where it gets out of hand. This is where this is where we have to put things in perspective and understand that we are devaluing some of these things because, you know, we have nothing better to do than to worry that somebody out there is out to get us, and we'll use every word in the book to do it. But the real stuff, like you're talking about, the occult stuff is the real stuff. It's not the fake stuff. It's the stuff that motivates people, and they don't know why they're being motivated. It's because for inside of them is motivating them, not something on the surface.
Yeah, no, I think it's like, you know, when it comes to, like, I know it's like a bad example, but like when it comes to Nazi magic, it'd be the same thing as a magician pulling a rabbit out of the hat and people believe in it. Like, it's like literally the mind fucking people like that.
I'm going to ask you a direct question. I want the truth.
Yeah.
Because I know what I'm going to say. When you look at a swastika, do you get a feeling?
Not
you get a feeling when you see it?
Not probably the same as I used to. I'll put it that way.
Do you, when you see it, is it a mesmerizing feeling when you see it?
It's a very powerful image.
Yes, it is. And do you know why?
Because
they took an image and they twisted it. They twisted it just enough to make it look like it's moving. And so when you see it, your brain is seeing it move, and it's like you can't take your eyes off of it.
Yes.
And that was the whole idea between the swastika. It was basically to tell you we're marching forward. we're marching forward, and it's never going to stop. This round bent cross is going to be marching through history, and it's never going to go away. That's what's so scary about it. I'm glad you told me the truth, because if you tell people, look at this symbol and what does it do to you? If you didn't have anything else on your mind, like Jews being slaughtered or people being killed or Hitler, you would say to yourself, this is a very powerful, mesmerizing symbol. Using fetish colors like black, white, and red. All things are there to trigger response.
Yes, it is. See, now that's what I was going with. When I first knew of it, yes, I equated it to, Hitler and doing horrible things. And once I got into occultism and started being like, oh, that's where that came from, I guess like it maybe interested me more in other ways, and I started realizing like, well, this is why it was so captivating. Yeah. This is why it was put places.
It's meant to be captivating.
I mean, even the same thing, I hate to say it, the hexagram. I mean, the same exact thing.
Here's another question I'd ask you.
Start David.
I ask this question of everybody because it's like I want to make sure that we're on the same page here, and we probably are. Okay, let's say that you're a young, poor German boy, and you're standing outside, and this guy shows up, and he's wearing this Hugo Boss uniform, black, with all that chrome on, and he's got the swastika on, and he's got those boots on, he's looking really cool, and he says, hey, how would you like to wear one of these uniforms, get fed, and work for the German army? Would you say yes or no?
I mean, if I was,
yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I was on my answer, fuck yeah, let me get one of those.
Because it looks fucking cool. That's why. I was stormtrooper. The whole reason why it worked. They made it look so cool, and it wasn't cool. And that's the whole point: is that we respond to things that we don't realize we respond to because of archetypes, because of colors, because of things. We respond to those things subconsciously, and so they're using the same type of propaganda, apple pie propaganda, I call it. They're using the same things in polarized parapolitics to get people to be mesmerized, to fall for it all over again. That's why history rhymes so well.
I mean, it's the same thing that they use for subliminal messages in advertisement.
Yeah.
They actually use the coolness factor to get you to buy into things that you normally would never buy into.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching Barack Obama speaking at the Democratic convention, and after he spoke, my stepson and I looked at each other, and we both said, Barack Obama, take our vote. And the reason why is because he was so mesmerizing and so good and so convincing. And then at the end, we were all laughing, going, yeah, let's go bomb a hospital. We're joking about, yeah, let's go bomb a bunch of Muslims. Let's go bomb a Muslim cleric and his son. And that's the whole thing, is that it's so beautiful and so wonderful. And it's like the other night when I was talking about Clinton. Clinton was speaking, and everyone's like, talking about how Trump is a womanizer and he's horrible and this and that. And I thought to myself, I didn't sleep with that woman. I didn't sleep with Monica Lewinsky. I'm not a rapist or a terrorist or a predator, but I am one. And it's just so weird that we're able to set aside all these horrible things, like Obama's, droning things. He was drone happy when he was president. And then we had, a guy that couldn't keep it in his pants that's now speaking at a rally that's going against the guy that has 34 felonies, and some of them are sexual felonies or whatever. How is it that we have to choose the evil of two lessers? That's what it is. Yeah. It's not the lesser of two evils. It's the evil of two lessers. They're both less. And that's the evil, is that we aren't getting a choice. We're just getting shit.
I often say,
like, what's the difference between a shit sandwich and shit? The bread. Yeah. That's it.
The bread.
That's it.
The white bread.
The white bread. Yeah. So I mean, you're getting it either way, right? That's the ugliness of parapolitics right there.
Yeah, and I even think like it has to be magic or occultism that has even gotten us to a point to even accept the shit that we're handed. Yeah. Because you're like, how did we get here? How did we get here?
Psychological operations. That's exactly what they've done. They basically, who needs MK Ultra when you can do it to everybody? Social engineer the population and have them. Biggest social engineering operation ever seen in the history of mankind. COVID-19.
Yes.
COVID-19. Simon never said to do what we did, but we did it anyway, right? And we would have done anything if they told us to do it, if it meant that we were going to save our lives, even though our lives were never in danger.
Right.
They were no more in danger than if you got pneumonia or got a cold that turned into pneumonia. That's how it was. and they were able to scare everybody into marching single file, 6 feet apart, wearing masks, looking like a bunch of idiots, and basically acting like a bunch of cops. They were able to do that. Now, what are they going to be able to do again?
Well, you were, I will say this, like, you were the only one on the air that was actually reporting death numbers of influenza and pneumonia, like at least 5 years prior to COVID-19.
Yes, I
and
was.
You kept saying, what is going on here? Why is no one reporting these death toll numbers with influenza? And this was back 2015, 2016, 2017. I remember. And yet all of a sudden, COVID comes on stage and like influenza basically went on vacation?
Yep. I was talking about Clyde X, and I talked about.
I remember that.
What else did I talk about? I just talked about. I said it's just building
Agenda
up
21.
to a pandemic. Agenda 21. It's going to build to a pandemic. I was on the Alex Jones show, and he says, "What do you see the future for mankind?" And I said, "We're going to see a biological attack on the United States so great that we're going to be locked down in our homes." And that's why I said on the show, it happened.
Yes.
And it's because I just saw the numbers, and I just said it's going to be so easy to convince people that a sneeze could kill you. And it's gonna happen, and when it does, it's gonna be like an alien threat. It's like, again, when I argue Project Bluebeam, I always say to people, you saw what they did with COVID, and they didn't have to project shit on a screen. They didn't have to, all they had to say is we have this invisible disease, and that everybody could get it and they could die. Imagine they could get on Biden or whomever could get out tomorrow and say, we just got word that the aliens are going to invade in 5 years, and we have to prepare for it. So what we have to do is we have to basically cut back on our emissions, cut back on all this stuff, because when the aliens arrive, they're not going to be able to breathe our air. You got to do something fast. I mean, what's to say that they're not lying to us that the aliens are going to come in 5 years? Right? I mean, what was that movie, that TV show called, is it Three Body Problem? I think it's what it was called.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they were talking about how the aliens are supposed to arrive in 100 years, and they expect people to prepare for that, and nobody would. They say, it's crazy. I don't have to worry about it because I'll be dead by the time they get here. But that's the thing, is that what if all this stuff is meant to acclimate us to the possibility that we're going to have to cool the planet down, that we're going to have to do all this stuff because the aliens, if they're coming, or if they're going to make it all up, they're going to come out and say, well, yeah, the aliens are coming. They're going to be here in 5 years. That's one of the reasons why we were doing what we were doing, is we didn't want to let the people know that we're actually preparing this planet for the arrival of the aliens. Now, they've been saying that we're all going to die in 12 years if we don't change, if we don't do anything about climate change. 12 years is over.
Yeah.
We're not dead.
Whatever.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So they can do the same thing with an alien threat. They can say, they don't need an alien. All they need to say is aliens are coming. Be ready for it. And we have the power to convince you that you have to pay your alien tax. We have to make these improvements. And it's easy. All you need is a good propaganda spin, and people are already going, okay, where do I sign up? That's where it is.
So, Clyde, do you suspect that's why there's so many occultists that are so interested in the UFO, UAP business? Is because of this kind of Project Bluebeam or mind fucking of society? I'm thinking folks like Hal Puthoff of the Aviary, Scientology background, Peter Levenda, OTO background, his associate John Podesta.
Well, let's go back in time, will you? Let's go back in time, okay? Ezekiel was a prophet who wanted to teach the people to not bow down to idols. He had a hard time doing that. What happened?
Sure.
Oh, there was a wheel in the sky that he saw, and he convinced everybody that he had the power because he saw this wheel, and everybody believed him.
Right.
Let's go back to Saul of Tarsus. Saul of Tarsus was a Roman, hated Jesus, hated the Christians. And then one day a big UFO shows up, and he sees it, and he falls to the ground and goes blind, and he writes the religion that we have today. He writes about the Roman Christianity, and that's what happens. Joseph Smith says that he's in a forest somewhere, and all of a sudden these lights come down. He says it's Jesus and God speaking to him, saying that no church is real, that he needs to start his own church. What do you
may or may not have been a white salamander?
Yeah, and what does a white salamander look like? An alien.
Magical
big eyes,
creature, right?
white body. Yeah. So all I'm saying is that I mean, it is occultism. It does lead itself to occult thinking. It does lead itself to, I saw the bright light in the sky, and the bright lights in the sky told me, hey, stop dancing. No, it's just the idea that, oh, well, okay, what about Fatima? What about the whole religious building on of a big UFO that appeared in front of a bunch of people in Fatima? So yes, it's there's a lot of occult stuff going on with UFOs. That's one of the reasons why I think they're not even exploring them anymore. They've decided that they want to back off because there is an occult element to it. And I don't know exactly what it is, but yeah, there's an occult element to it. There's been an occult element to it with the Nazis. You look at the Vril Society and how they were obsessed with aliens. So there you go.
When we have the whole think tanks exploring psychedelics and consciousness and inserting all of that in that push, and most of those are occultists as well. Yeah, all about DMT and the machine aliens or the machine elves and all that stuff. Yeah, it's all part of the gig. You just got to, separate it together and try to connect the dots. And when people say, well, how do you come up with all that material? Hell, I got plenty of material, believe me, tons of material that goes beyond the second-rate conspiracy theorist who the media decides to focus on because he comes up with some crazy idea that you can't set fire to your snowballs. It's. I mean, that's the thing is, No, conspiracy theories are now becoming the true crime. Because look at Carlson coming in on that whole cash cow. Because I do think.
Yeah, well, like I was saying, it's like it goes from being a part of critical thinking, a critical thinking exercise, and it becomes insubordination later. Now, how's that happening? You can't question us. Well, sure we can. It's called freedom of speech. Well, not anymore. That's the whole thing, is they want to be able to silence people who want to take that narrative and expose it for the lie that it is. And that's so sad that we've reached that point, because I have a constitutional right to lie to you if I want to. And as much as that sounds bad, it is bad, but that's the thing of life. That's the thing of the Constitution. I can tell lies. I can make up stuff. I can say all I want about who I hate and what I feel. And that's what a Constitution is there for. And so it's sad, but true. I mean, that was a conspiracy too, remember? We had men conspiring against the king to come up with these ideas. That's why the United States is one of the biggest conspiracy theory capitals of the world, because our very existence is based on a conspiracy. Our very existence is based on a conspiracy. We conspired against the king, and we won, because our conspiracy theory was right, wasn't it? That's the whole point.
Yeah, that's really a good way to put it.
No, that was great. That's pretty much the conspiracy of the U.S. The fact that we're children of a conspiracy.
Yeah. We are.
So
we shouldn't be self-righteous about that. We should always think to ourselves, well, we're here because somebody conspired against that evil man or an evil king. And maybe we should conspire against those evil leaders again. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all.
Really, I never thought of that. Really.
That's also a constitutional right.
Yep, it is.
Against tyrants.
It is. You're right. Very much so, JJ. You're right.
Nice. Is there anything else that you, Lisa?
No.
Only that I know that I'm getting the motion that I have to go.
Oh, okay. All right. That's perfect then.
I just want to let you guys all know that this has been such a pleasure to talk to you, especially with open minds, and we all think together, and it's amazing what we can talk about here when we are all into it. I want to let people know that if they're having a hard time finding me on the radio, you can go to groundzero.radio and listen to our network that's online. We have a very, very solid network of conspiracy theorists and paranormal investigators that talk on our radio station 24/7. Also, if you want to listen to Ground Zero, you can listen there online, or many radio stations across the country by going groundzero.radio. We're on Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific time. And we have aftermath.media, which is what we call our digital playground. It's kind of like Clyde Lewis Plus, where you get to go in, you have chat, you have videos, you have documents that are at your fingertips if you want to do your research on your own. It's a research portal. And also I come in from time to time, say hi to people And we do webinars with people. Like I said, we did a webinar with David John Oates. We've done a webinar with Avi Loeb. We've done all these wonderful guests coming in. And so you need to sign up for aftermath.media. It's really inexpensive, but all the benefits are there, and you get to learn a lot in the process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, too, for coming on.
Hey, it's been a blast, guys. You guys are remarkable. I hope nothing but great success for you, because you guys certainly are on the ball and you know exactly what's going on. And that's what I really enjoy, are people who get it, who understand what it's about.
Thank you so much. I do hope you'll come back for
so we'd
sure
love to have you back
another
on.
time on something else.
Please.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we'd love to have you back on. It'd be a great time.
You guys are great.
Yeah, I really had a great chat.
No, for sure.
JJ, did you
have a beer, JJ? You know what I mean by that, right? When you and I had a private conversation earlier, go ahead and have a beer on me, right? Okay? Please. I'll go have a beer in your honor too.
Sure.
Okay?
JJ,
Maybe you could
there
have
you
a
go.
coffee too, right?
Great to meet you, Clyde.
Great to meet you too, man. Thank you so much.
All right, so I will have. I think I have Clyde's information already in the bottom in the show notes, so people can go check that out. To go check out his stuff if they've never heard of the man before. JJ, I will add your stuff in there. I think I forgot, but you want to let people know where they can find your stuff real quick before we wrap this up.
JJ Vance, host of Operation GCD. Nick, Lisa, thanks for the invite as always. Clyde, great to meet you. Great conversation. Definitely enjoyed every minute of it.
Awesome.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Lisa, do you want to plug anything real quick?
Just Clyde, thank you again. This literally has been amazing for me. It really definitely has. And I do hope you do come back on. And I will see you on Monday. I guess not see you, but listen to you on Monday. So
Thank you so much for keeping the faith.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. And Twitter, Solis Lisa, Instagram, Lisa Solis.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and that is the end of another Occult Rejects. I'd like to thank everybody in the chat. That was awesome. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of people in there, a lot of people saying what's up. That's why I go live, and thank you. And until the next one, later.